Hello and a warm welcome to African Aerospace and Defence TV. I am Nashina Mohammed. Thank you for joining us. The hacking of the Nigeria Independent Electoral Commission's website during Nigeria's recent elections may just result in cyber defence gaining prominence in Africa. Some African countries are already researching this field scientifically.
Despite all its benefits, the internet brought on cyber war, requiring cyber defense. And with South Africa becoming an emerging cybercrime hotspot, it is no surprise that the continent's oldest cyber defense research group is based here.
Cyber attacks on African countries only became a reality with the arrival of broadband internet on the continent around 2009.
Research suggests that, in Africa alone, there are about 40% increase in cyber attacks. And this is caused by, of course, the growth in connectivity and the fact that our infrastructure is underdeveloped.
Unfortunately, up till now, there's only a little pockets of cyber defense research. Most of the companies and industry actually focus on intrusion detection and protection, but not real cyber defense companies that's doing cyber defense. Like, there's a lot of antivirus companies in Europe and the US. As far as we know, there's no antivirus companies that set up in Africa.
Part of South Africa's Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, the Cyber Defence Research Group does classified work for military institutions, which AADtv was not allowed to film. It also provides various services and does projects for government and the private sector.
It is necessary to have a cyber defense group and research group because we have to support the military to set up these systems to be able to defend the country from attacks. But the problem in South Africa is actually the cyber crime and attacks against citizens for cyber crime. And if the attacks are too big and of such a big nature, then cyber defense will come in and the military will help to defend the country's networks.
We find similar problems in Russia, in China, in the US, but research seems to suggest that there's a strong correlation between the economy, in other words, the growth of the economy, and the cybersecurity attacks.
We have very little universities who actually train cybersecurity specialists. We actually have no government policy that's been publicly released. We have no CERTs or national security centers that actually address if there's a real concern happening right now. It means we are being targeted and we don't have enough people to address it.
One of the most prominent projects we are currently working on is called the Network Emulation and Simulation Laboratory. We are working with the Department of Science and Technology in order to assist universities in the education of postgraduate students in cybersecurity.
One of the most impressive projects is Cyber Protect. This system has mainly two main objectives. The first being that we scan the internet for vulnerable hardware, vulnerable to certain cyber attacks. This information is then displayed on a map where you can filter down and you can see more information on each hardware being displayed. The second objective is where we search the internet for personal identifiable information, also known as PII. So we take all of this information and then also on a map, a world map, we plot all of the websites responsible for leaking those type of information.
Other services include verification, testing and security testing of network devices to ensure proper safety of your computer networks.
It is not a run-of-the-mill job. We get to explore, to test, to innovate, to solve problems. We don't do the same thing every day. It's a wonderful opportunity to actually channel all your creative interests and come up with innovative solutions. If you have a mind that likes to think outside of the box and look at issues from different angles, it's a perfect career for you to go into.
Coordinated and planned cyber defense efforts on the continent may still be rare, but the researchers at the CSIR Cyber Defense Research Group are laying the foundation for a critical future security need. Marisa de Klerk, AADtv.
Irrespective of the cause, an airline's reaction to a fatal crash like the recent Germanwings incident can make or break it. AirAsia and its CEO Tony Fernandez's response to the carrier's plane crashing into the ocean late last year is considered a prime example of crisis communication.
Lyndon, why is an airline's response to a fatal crash so crucial for its survival?
I think it's not just when there's a fatal crash, it's when there is a crisis. And of course, any fatality is a crisis. And that's because the market is looking, and I say the market, I mean the broader market, whether it's your shareholders, whether it's the traveling public, whether it's your staff, whether it's your other stakeholders, are looking for reassurance that the management is taking control of the situation and trying to make things good again. Okay, you obviously can't make people undead, but you can take responsibility for the situation, and that's very different to taking liability or accepting liability. You're taking responsibility, you're acknowledging you've got a problem, it's happened on our watch, we better get a grip on this and make it right. And a business's health and its ability to sustain and continue doing business in future depends very heavily on the management, and specifically the top management's ability to get a grip and a handle on the situation and show the markets, demonstrate to them that they have a handle on the situation. Now, if we look at Tony Fernandez and the AirAsia accident, what we see there is a classic example of somebody who understands the media, which is a rapidly evolving landscape. We've got away from a situation where you had primetime news once an evening or twice an evening to where we have 24/7 rolling news channels, plus social media, plus the mainstream daily newspapers, which are doing more analytical, longer stuff. And you've got all these things like Twitter and Facebook, where people are accessing information far more rapidly than they used to. And those are influencing the markets all the time. Now, you do that, you also want to be able to capture something of your corporate culture. And you look at AirAsia, it's a budget airline, it's a very informal type of management. It's very much Tony Fernandez with his sleeves rolled up and his baseball cap on, getting out there, being involved, being a part of the whole game. And I think his response, which I must add, is not something he's doing on his own. He has a very capable team of advisors backing him up, has been so well received compared to, say, Malaysian Airlines a year ago with MH370, where the airline was slow out of the starting block and got completely overtaken by the politicians and by everybody else. So when the airline started to try and talk, nobody was listening.
Now, Tony Fernandez has especially been praised for, as you say, his compassionate touch. What advice would you have for management, CEOs, who may know that this is not a strength in my personality when they have to deal with a situation like that?
If you're the CEO, you want to make sure that you have examined your business, that you've gone and stress tested it, you've identified where you are vulnerable to risk. Okay, if you're an airline, it's pretty clear. You've got assets that are flying around the world all the time. They could be involved in an accident at your home base, or they could be involved in an accident halfway across a desert or across a polar cap somewhere or in the middle of the ocean. You need to know where have you got resources able to respond, and are you trained and are you equipped, and do you have a plan for dealing with a crisis and for dealing with the communications element of it. And I always tell airlines and airports that we work with, don't forget the word crisis has a flip side. It's opportunity. A crisis is an opportunity to lead. It's an opportunity to demonstrate that your leadership skills as a CEO or as a politician, whatever you happen to be. So you want to make sure you have a plan, you want to make sure you've done your risk assessment and get yourself trained. Everybody can learn media skills, and dealing with a crisis is quite different to dealing with a run-of-the-mill normal issue or a bit of promotional activity to plug a new product. It's very different. It's a much higher stress environment. You've got lots of issues to think about in terms of reputation and legal, and often they conflict because a lawyer will tell you, say nothing, do nothing, admit nothing. A crisis communicator will tell you, say as much as you can, as quickly as you can, and as openly and often as you can, because everybody is looking to you for a degree of transparency here.
And that's it for this edition on African Aerospace and Defence TV. I am Nashina Mohammed. Until next time.